Okay, hello everybody and welcome. Today is a class webinar where we are going to be going over some different recipes, some food, some different kinds of gift ideas for cleaning, DIYs, different things like that, things that you can make for yourself or things that you could easily gift to somebody during the holidays or take to a holiday party that are nice and healthy, things that don't have toxins, things that don't have any gluten, dairy, or sugar, since if you have an autoimmune condition, that's really what you should be abiding by. So what we are going to do is we're going to start with a recipe that I'm going to cook in the oven, and then while that's cooking, I'm going to show you some of the other things. So let me start by doing this. So I will be at the end, I will be giving you a copy of the PDF in the chat, so you will actually have a copy of it. And the first thing that I'm going to do that we're going to then bake and go over some of the other things is I'm going to make these almond butter muffins. And this is a recipe I found, I believe, on someone else's blog or site or Pinterest. I can't remember exactly where I found it. I probably should have taken note of where I found it, but I found it probably about, I don't know, gosh, a couple years ago now. And it's nice because it's gluten-free, dairy-free, grain-free, sugar-free. It's not nut-free because one of the bases of it is almond butter, as it implies in the recipe, and it's not low carb because it's got bananas and maple syrup, that kind of stuff in it. And it's a pretty simple ingredient thing. So the first thing you got to have is some kind of a mixing bowl, and you basically are just going to mix all the ingredients, ideally some kind of a powered mixer. So I have a powered mixer. I've already started heating the oven so that it will be ready by the time we're ready to put stuff in. And then I've just gone through and I've already sprayed 12 muffin tins. One thing I recommend highly is instead of using like Pam spray or something like that has some of the chemicals, if you get like your own spray bottle and can fill it like with olive oil or avocado oil or something like that. This is olive oil for spraying. And you can get like a bottle like this on Amazon where you just kind of keep refilling and it's got the little capsules. It's actually pretty cool. Works that way. And so I have it all sprayed, and so I'm just going to combine the ingredients. And the first thing that you need is your bananas. So it calls for 2 to 3 bananas, depending on the size. I'm going to start with 2. I might do a third. Calls for ones that are fairly ripe, but they don't necessarily have to be like super ripe, like the kind you would use for a banana bread, something like that. So I'm just going to put these bananas in my bowl. Then the next thing you need is the almond butter. And this is a jar of the almond butter from Trader Joe's. You can get it other places. I just find that this is the least expensive and the highest quality. And it's literally one of those almond butters that literally only has almonds in it. So I think most almond butters fairly healthy. Unlike peanut butter, sometimes there's some additives and stuff, but it's basically, this has got some of the oil on the top. So I'm just gonna take a spoon here. I'm just gonna kind of stir it. I hope you can kind of see me doing this. So I'm gonna stir this to get some of the oil out, and then I need a cup of the almond butter in my recipe. So that's kind of a lot. It's gonna use about half the jar, approximately. So I'm just gonna spoon into this cup here, and it might be kind of hard to see, but try to do it like a full cup of almond butter, and I'm just gonna kind of pour slash scoop it into this 1 cup measuring thing so that I make sure that I have my full cup of almond butter. So just gonna do that there. Okay. Got pretty much, yeah, full cup. So I'm gonna pour that and into the bowl with the bananas. Make sure I get it all in there. And use the spoon to mash things around a little bit too. So I'm gonna do that. Then the next thing I'm gonna add in is the eggs. And it calls for 2 large eggs. So I'm going to, just using regular standard white eggs, you could use brown eggs, whatever eggs you want to use. Put the 2 eggs into the bowl. eggs in there. Then it also calls for 1/4 cup of maple syrup. So this is where you get a lot of your sweetener. However, these are not a super sweet thing. So you have to, even with the maple syrup, they're not super sweet. So you're gonna pour just like a cup of maple syrup, put that into the bowl. The next thing is a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And the brand doesn't matter here on that one. I'm gonna use just this little vanilla extract that I got at Walmart. So there's that. And I'm just gonna do a little teaspoon in here. There we go. Then the next thing it calls for is a teaspoon each of baking soda and cinnamon. So the baking soda in this is gonna be what's gonna help the muffins rise a little bit so that they are, you don't have flat bread. We're actually trying to make muffins, so the baking soda will help with that. So you put the baking soda in, and then a teaspoon of cinnamon. Teaspoon of cinnamon in. Dump that in here. There we go. And then it calls for a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. So you want to be really careful you don't use that much. I basically am just going to take this Himalayan pink salt because that's what I have on hand. I'm just going to take a little tiny spinge and just do, just a little spinge. Okay, then a pinch of ground nutmeg. Now, ground nutmeg, I just for some reason just couldn't quite find it, so I'm using a little bit of allspice. Basically, the idea is some kind of like an allspice nutmeg pumpkin type flavor. I've made this recipe before and put like a pumpkin spice type mix instead of the cinnamon and the nutmeg as well. Then the other thing you want to do is it calls for a 1/4 cup of hemp seeds or hemp seed powder. So in this case, I've just got the hemp seeds. These have been taken out of the package, but they're basically the standard ones you get at Walmart. Just gonna pour a 1/4 cup of those in there. And this also helps create a little bit of the flour-like texture. So we're gonna dump those in there. A few more, there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna get those out of there, and then that is it. So in a lot of ways, it's a pretty simple, basic recipe. You can kind of hopefully see that I've got a bunch of stuff here in the bowl, and I'm just gonna mix this a little bit with the spoon to get it to mash. And it's not gonna quite mash with the spoon though, good enough with the bananas. They're in there, they're kind of chunky and that kind of thing. So what I'm gonna need to do to get it to mash well enough to create a batter is I'm gonna need to use a blender. And that is gonna make some noise. So I'm gonna move this away for a sec. And this, in case you can, hopefully you can kind of see this here, is just kind of your standard regular mixer blender. And I'm gonna do it a little bit on low because I don't want it to fly out everywhere. Let's see. You can also use kind of the mashing thing and kind of get it to kind of turning the bowl and kind of mash and fish. And the main idea here is you want to get all the banana chunks out. You don't want there to be any chunks of banana. You want it to all be blended in. It's not, the idea is not really just eating chunks of banana, but you're all better. Okay, so now it's pretty liquidy. And then what I'm gonna do is I've got these muffin tins, like I said, that I've already sprayed. And I'm just gonna pour, or I can kind of scoop maybe a little bit, this batter into this set of 12 muffin tins. So I'm just gonna kind of pour it in there, pour/scoop in there a little bit. And I'm gonna keep doing this. And if you do this right with this batter, you should have just about enough to make 12 muffins in your muffin tin. I'm just gonna keep going a little bit. And it looks like I did it pretty close to accurate. I probably got just about enough to do about 12. I don't want to have not enough, and I also don't want to have extra really either, because I don't really want to have to use a separate container. So let me just keep going. And they're not going to really explode too much, just because the baking soda is going to give it a little bit of that oomph, if you will, that rising power, but it's not going to give you too much. I'm basically just going to keep scooping them until I have it in the thing. Okay. And it looks like I did it pretty close to accurate. A tad bit of extra batter, but not much, and enough that I can put in there. And that beeping sound is actually my oven that's already been preheated. So we'll see this on the sheet when you get it, but the oven has been preheated to 350, and that's basically what we're going to do for 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer for 25 minutes. Should be about the right timing to pull them out towards the end. So then I'm just going to go stick these in right now. And okay, so it's not the first recipe on the sheet that I'm going to give you, but that's the first one because that one's the only one that has to actually bake. Everything else are going to be things that I'm either going to talk through or we're going to go ahead and create. So the next thing that I have on here, and this is, I find a pretty good gift idea for people. A lot of people like to gift things like bath salts, bath shower melts, bath bombs, things like that. Some of those things can be a little bit tricky to make because they can be, they can fall apart, they can be kind of expensive. And I put my eggs away in the fridge. This is an alternative to that. So I have this jar already loaded with Epsom salts here. And I found this particular jar actually at Dollar Tree a couple years ago. And so it's a really good place to look for jars, like glass jars, plastic containers, things like that. I'm going to make a couple different gift ideas that go in these. And Epsom salts are the cheapest at Walmart, has been my experience. You don't really want to buy those on Amazon unless you have to, because they're actually quite a bit more expensive on Amazon. So then you just kind of fill it. In this case, I probably could have put a few more, but I wanted to leave a little bit for me to top off, because then what I'm going to do now that I've got them filled is I'm going to add some essential oils to them and stir them in. And a couple of my favorites, so copaiba is one of my favorites because it's like kind of like a cannabinoid, so it's really good for like discomfort and pain, and you can mix it in there and then pour the Epsom salts in the bath. And when you take the bath, it can help with your discomfort. Or eucalyptus is another really favorite one for your sinuses, that kind of thing. You can use a combination or you can just use one. And what I like to do, then I take a separate spoon, obviously I don't want the one I just cooked with. In this case, I think I'm just going to do the copaiba for this particular batch, but I'm going to basically take it and I'm going to dump about 15 drops or so in there. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12. And then I'm going to take this spoon and I'm going to stir essential oil in with the bath salts to get it to be really well mixed. I'm going to stir it for about a minute here. And just keep stirring it in there. You may want to add actually another drop or two and keep stirring it. Okay. I don't want it to be too strong, but I also want it to be strong enough that when I pour these into the bath, I will feel the effects of it. Okay, so there we go. So I'm just going to stir them in. And then what you can do is, I'm not using these for a gift, but you could get like some kind of like ribbon to wrap around the neck probably of the jar. Probably that would be another place, Dollar Tree or Walmart probably. And then you could just like, if you want, you could put like some recipe ideas or instructions or things like that. And then just give this as a nice, simple, easy, like neighbor or friend gift, whatever you want to give to people. So that's one idea. So then the next idea is to do like a homemade hot chocolate type thing. And there's a couple different recipes and variations you can do on this. I didn't have any raw cacao in my house, and I think unfortunately that I'm having a little bit of an allergy with chocolate, unfortunately, boo-hoo. So I haven't bought any, but I thought I would walk you through a little bit about how you would do a homemade one. So there's a couple different ways to do it. If you were going to do it like at a party that you were going to serve, and not like as a gift to give somebody, you could do it just like with the milk in it. So what you would do is you want to combine, and I've got the recipe like I said here on the sheet. So you want to take 8 to 16 ounces of, typically I would do dairy-free milk. If you're okay with dairy, you could use regular like 1% or 2% milk. Personally, I don't drink milk because it bothers me, but whatever. I would use almond or coconut milk probably. Then what you would do is you would mix 2 to 3 tablespoons of the raw cacao powder, and then some kind of like an alternative sweetener. So there's a couple different ones you can use. So this is like a brown coconut sugar. The coconut sugar is not very sweet though. So if you're going to use coconut sugar, you probably want to also combine it with something else as well. You have something like a stevia on the raw. So these are like powdered little packets that you can mix in. There's not a whole lot in here, and it's not super sweet, so I would probably put like 3 or 4 of these in with like an 8 to 16 ounce mix. And then, yeah, the cacao, and then you could just mix, the milk with the cacao and the sweetener and microwave it to make like a drink. Or if you were gonna like serve it for a party, you could make a much larger quantity of it. Or the other option would be if you want to do it like a gift, it's another idea of something you could put in a jar. You could do a larger quantity of the raw cacao. So I'd probably triple or quadruple the raw cacao with whatever sweetener you have, and then put some instructions on it and tell people, how to make it. You could potentially even give somebody like one of those cartons of almond milk that is shelf stable, or coconut milk shelf stable. I like to get those like at Costco or something, and you could just, give that to them with the jar that had the mix in it and some instructions on how to make it themselves. So that could be another good gift idea as well. Or you could also put, the other kind of sweetener you could also put would be like some kind of like stevia drops. This one obviously would only work if you were actually going to make it and then serve it or eat it right then, drink it right then. Okay, so those are the 2 food things. So the next thing that I wanted to show you how to do is how to make like a homemade type of a bubble bath. Because you can buy a lot of commercial bubble baths, but some of those commercial bubble baths will have synthetic fragrances in them, or sulfates or things in them that are really hard on your skin, can give you rashes, ultimately aren't the greatest for you. And just honestly, sometimes my experience has been they don't work as well or not as great. And so the first thing you want is some kind of an 8-ounce plastic bottle. It says this is a 16 ounce, so I'm going to need to double it. This is also a bottle that had hand soap in it that I just rinsed out. I didn't have another plastic bottle, but I figure this will still work. I can make some. So the ingredient list, and like I said, you'll see this on the handout that you'll get. So what you'll want to have access to, and I need to open this up first, is a couple of basic things. So the first thing you'll want is some unscented dish soap or Castile soap. And I like the Dr. Bonner's Castile soap. Amazon and Walmart both have it. It's pretty good. There's some different flavored ones. Like you can even get like a peppermint one, different ones like this. But this is just a basic unscented Castile soap. So you'll want this. You'll want, it says to do 1/8 cup of water. So I'm going to need to, well, actually, I'm doubling the recipe on this because I've got a bottle that's twice the size. So got my quarter thing, but it's got food stuff in it, almond butter and things. So I guess I'll just have to do like half a cup. But anyhow, okay, so you've got water, then you need liquid glycerin. And this, I got this bottle on Amazon, but this is like a vegetable like glycerin type thing. Then you need some kind of an essential oil. On the recipe here, I have you're using lavender or spearmint. I'm going to make it with lavender because it's a nice calming one. Like if you want to take a bubble bath at night, do that. And then your bottle, and let's see, is that it? Yep, that's it for that recipe. Okay, so I'm going to take the bottle, and what I'm going to do is just basically mix it all up. So I'm going to start with my 1/2 cup of my castile soap. So I'm basically just gonna pour the castile soap into here. And then I'm gonna pour it into this bottle. And you can get little like funnel type things to help you pour the liquids into bottles and not spill, but done this enough, you can kind of tell I'm pretty good at actually trying to pour these in and not have it fall everywhere. Okay, so there's the castile soap. Now I need about a quarter cup, so about half this cup filled with water. So I'm just gonna pour the water into this. Oops, use a little bit of water. There we go. And then I need a third a cup of liquid glycerin. So let me see. I think I've got a third cup. Let's see. Half cup. Just looking at my measurement things. That's a quarter cup. So I'm gonna get a little bit more than a quarter cup. So I'm just gonna have to probably kind of approximate it. I'm gonna use this liquid glycerin. So I'm gonna do fourth cup plus a little bit more than that. Okay. Actually spilling some here on the sides of this bottle. This is not the greatest idea. I should have probably used a funnel of some kind with this, but let's see. Spilling, and then I need, just gonna eye it here. I need a little bit more liquid glycerin. Let's see. I don't know how much I really want to put in there. Okay, maybe a little bit more. It didn't quite fill the whole bottle in here. So I think I'm actually gonna, well, okay. I think I'm gonna actually add just a little more water in this so that it's not quite, I don't want my bubbles to be too bad. Okay, so there we go. And then bottle's not quite full, but it's still got some, and you get the idea. And I would, if you were gonna give this as a gift to somebody, I'd probably do, you know, like just a clear plain plastic bottle, and then you could like put your own label with like a recipe that says what's in it or instructions or anything like that. And then I'm gonna add my lavender. It says on here just to use 3 drops. Since I doubled the recipe, I'm gonna do more like 6. So I'm just gonna dump it in the bottle. 5, 6, there we go. And then just close the recipe and then, or close the bottle rather, and then I'm just gonna shake it a little bit. And you can kind of, it's kind of hard to see because it's a little amber glass, but you can see that it's kind of getting a little foamy there. So then I can just use like a tablespoon or I guess a cap or 2 full, and the next time I take a bath, and I'll have nice lavender bubbles. The other idea with that, it says on here, is to use spearmint. You also technically could probably use the copaiba or eucalyptus in there too. Probably those probably good ideas too. Okay, then the next thing, gift idea that you can do is some kind of like an air spray, like kind of like a homemade room spray type thing. And let's see. There we go. Oh, there it is. And there's lots of different recipes you can use. This particular glass bottle already has a spray in it that I put in it. And I was trying to find some more glass spray bottles. I just, for whatever reason, I guess I don't have that many in my house. But like, is it glass or plastic bottles, again, can come from Amazon or Walmart, that kind of stuff. And I have a specific recipe on here that you can use. And the basic idea behind it, and that's kind of what I put in here. This one I think is a little bit different, is you want a 4-ounce glass bottle. So that's about the size that this is. And then you want proportions of a couple different mixes of essential oils. And then you want like some witch hazel. So this is just a brand of witch hazel that I've had forever. I don't know where exact, this is maybe an Amazon or Walmart thing too, but witch hazel. And then you want a little bit of water. The recipe here calls for distilled water. I found that you can use just regular tap water, but biggest thing with distilled water is that it does kind of makes a little better and will throw the scent a little better. So that's kind of the idea. The particular recipe I have on here calls for 10 drops of frankincense, 10 drops of cedar wood, 15 drops of peppermint, and then the 2 ounces of witch hazel. So you just kind of combine in the water. You kind of just combine that all into a spray. And then the idea is that you can just kind of spritz. You can see I'm going to spritz it around here. You can just kind of spritz your house. and it works like a natural type of a room spray without all the chemicals in it. So that's the idea behind that. Like I said, I've got the one sample recipe there, but you can find tons of others there. Okay, so then the next idea I have on here is one. Now, you could gift this to somebody. You probably wouldn't gift, might be a little bit awkward unless, you know, it's somebody you know really well and you know they're just not feeling well or they're down with some kind of a cold or something, then, you know, they might appreciate it. But otherwise, this is more something that I like to use throughout the winter season. So you can get different sizes of roller bottles. So this is a smaller one. You can get a bigger one as well. And the basic recipe, and I have on here, is you're going to use some different essential oils. And it actually, oh, I didn't put on there, but you also are going to want like some kind of a carrier oil. This, like a fractionated coconut oil, like this is my favorite. And what you're going to do is 3 to 5 drops each of a couple different essential oils. So the first one is going to be like an oregano, because oregano is really good for like you're down in the dumps. It's a good like throat support. It's a good immune support. So I'm just going to kind of try to dump about 3 to 5 drops in there. Then I'm going to add lemon into this recipe. And then I'm going to add the On Guard blend. So this is this doTERRA specific blend with On Guard that has cinnamon and cloves and eucalyptus and a few other things in there. So I'm going to put out 5 in there. And then I'm going to put some frankincense as well to help with the immune system as well. And then you can see I've just got, you know, a little bit of essential oil there on the bottom. So then I'm going to top it off with my fractionated coconut oil. And I think I should be able to, oops, get this into the bottle and have it not spill too much. And I'm just gonna top it off there and get it to fill almost to the top. Okay. And then I'm going to put on this little roller. And like I said, this is a smaller one. I've also done them with bigger roller bottles as well. Let's take that there. And then I'm going to shake it up a little bit. And then what I can do is this makes a really good blend for you to apply like on the bottoms of your feet before your socks. You put your socks on to help with immune support. The best case scenario for using this is before you actually get sick. So if you're already sick, you can use it, but you're going to recover quicker and potentially help prevent yourself from not getting sick in the first place. So this is more like a preventative rather than a, oh, oops, I'm already sick type thing. But you can also try it if you're already sick. The next recipe I have on here is another recipe for a spray. Like I said, I realized I didn't have enough glass bottles to make them all on site, but basically you use another 4-ounce glass bottle spray. In this particular one, you combine 10 each of lavender, Roman chamomile, and vetiver. And then you use like the witch hazel and the distilled water before. And then what you can do with this is like the Sweet Dreams implies is that lavender, Roman chamomile, and vetiver are all really good for sleep. So you basically can just spritz this all over your pillows, sheets, all that kind of stuff, and use it to help you fall asleep better. So that particular one, I feel like, you know, and then of course the other like room spray one would make a really good gift for somebody, regardless of, you know, I mean, even if you don't know if they're having trouble sleeping or not, you could probably, let's face it, everybody struggles with sleep from time to time. So you could probably still gift that to them. They wouldn't think it was kind of odd. You could do something like potentially combine it with like a pair of socks or a sleep mask, or maybe even you could give them the hot chocolate mix with the Sweet Dreams and be like, hey, have some good hot chocolate. A couple different things you could do there. Okay, and then the last recipe I have on here, and it looks like my stuff might be done in time for me to at least show you what they look like. The muffins might be, is to do some garbage disposal refreshers. So this is a really good homemade type recipe that you can do. It won't be completely complete for about 24 hours though, because it does have to sit. And so what you do is it's got the ingredient list on here. I'm gonna have you watch me make it. Is we're gonna start by getting a bowl, and I'm going to grab a bowl. Let's see. I think that I can. Okay, here, just this small plastic bowl I think should work. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put 2 cups of baking soda to begin with, just like the standard Great Value Walmart baking soda. And it's gonna dump, I think that's gonna be the rest of this container. Yep, it's gonna be the rest of this container easily. I think I actually can get a little more. I think I've got a little more in my cupboards. Let me try to grab it. Let's see. Yeah. Need a little bit more baking soda, actually. Didn't quite have enough. There we go. Baking soda. And then it also calls for a full cup of salt. So I'm going to take this salt. This is maybe not best salt, but it was typically use a little bit of a higher quality salt. So it's kind of hard to find cheaper salt. But I'm basically going to just dump this salt into the bowl. So now I've got this bowl with salt and baking soda. Then it calls for half a cup of water. So I'm gonna rinse this out for in here. Okay. So then I've got a half a cup of water, and so we'll add. Okay, I don't need the water yet, actually. Okay, this Castile soap. Okay, so it's calling for 1/3 cup again of this liquid Castile soap. So I'm gonna need a little more than a cup, but it says to add the Castile soap, and then you're also gonna add 30 drops of lemon essential oil into it. So I'm gonna add Castile soap. I need a little bit more. And then I'm gonna take 30 drops of the lemon essential oil, put it in here. Okay, and then it says to add the water. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna grab this spoon. So then it says to stir it all together, and then add the water in 1 tablespoon at a time. So you're trying to conform it to be like the consistency of like a sand type thing that you can then mold with your hands. So you want to just dump a little bit. You can kind of sort of see how it's kind of a little bit lumpy there. I've been stirring the soap and the essential oil and the liquid stuff in together. So I've got it all kind of there. So I'm just going to kind of pour a little bit of water and then mix it in to get it lumpy. Yeah. I want to dump it all, and then I'm just going to keep pouring a little bit of the water. And kind of just keep pouring so that it doesn't get too weird. A little more water. Checking my timer here. It looks like I've got just under 3 minutes till my muffins come out. So that'll be good timing. And then I'm gonna just. Okay, so then I'm gonna mix this. So I've got these lumps. I'm gonna do the spoon first, but then I'm gonna need to get my hands a little dirty. Okay, let's see. Get the lumps. And so you can kind of sort of hopefully see that this is like a kind of a lumpy consistency. Let me show you a little bit of it right there with my hand. Hopefully you can kind of see that. And then what you're gonna do is kind of form some lumps with it. And I have kind of a baking sheet that I've put like some like wax paper on, and I'm just gonna kind of try to form them into little balls or little shapes. If you have like a mold for making candy or something like that, you could probably use that too. I just don't have one, so I'm just gonna make these little molds, form them with my hands, and just kind of put them onto this baking sheet. And then you have to wait about 24 hours. So you have to keep these out on the kitchen counter for about 24 hours, and then they will harden. And what you can do when they're hardened is if you're having, you know, like a disposal sink, like maybe you've just opened a can of tuna and you want to get rid of the fishy smell, or, you know, just anytime you want some kind of like a natural refresher for your garbage disposal, you can just put one of these down, and it will help freshen the garbage disposal and get rid of the gunky smell, and it will make your kitchen smell really amazing. Actually, I've done some similar things to this before. Now my oven's beeping, so it's pretty much done. So I'll be able to take those out here in a minute. And yeah, and if you wanted to do these as a gift for somebody, what I probably would do is I would probably use some kind of a mold, because otherwise, show these to you in a second here, but you're going to be able to see that they're just looking like some kind of a lump that I've got on my sheet, and they're going to dry basically in like a lump form, so they don't look, you can kind of hopefully see them. They don't look like a super presentable thing that I'd want to give as a gift, but in my case right now, I'm not going to give these as a gift. It's just going to be something I'm going to have. I'm going to set it aside for when I want to use them in my own kitchen. Okay. Okay, so now that my muffins have come out, I'm going to go grab them and show you what they look like. So I'm just gonna put down some little things right here and move a few things out of the way so that I can have room to put them on my kitchen counter. I've made kind of a large mess with all this different stuff that's sitting here. Okay. Okay. And you can see hopefully right there, and I'll show you one in a few minutes after we do some Q&A, where you can kind of see they're kind of all dark brown. They look like your typical muffin, and they need to cool for probably about 15 minutes before you can eat them. And they will store in your fridge for probably about 5 days or so before you'll want to move them to the freezer. And the freezer works just fine. Like you can freeze them and they'll last a couple months in there. They work pretty well. And I don't know why. Okay, my oven's still beeping. There we go. Stop that. Okay, so those are the recipes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the recording, and we can do some Q&A. I'm going to put the PDF that has all the recipes into the chat so that you can easily download it.